Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. May all be happy. May all be free from diseases. May all see only goodness everywhere. And may no one suffer from misery. So Vivekananda at that time was General Secretary, and I was brought to the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Order, which is in Belur Math, to serve, because I had some audit experience and that was needed at the headquarters. That's why I got to know Swami Bhaskarananda quite well. He was the General Secretary. And Swami Bhaskarananda would keep the door of his room closed sometimes. At that time he would quietly think of God. And one day Swami Bhaskarananda of our center in Udbodhan Publication Center in Calcutta, he came to him for some guidance and heard that Swami Bhaskarananda was probably busy thinking of God, so his door of his room is closed. So he waited. Then after about half an hour or more, he opened the door. Then he said that he had come there for his guidance. And he had come at least half an hour before. Then Swami Bhaskarananda said to him, even when I am thinking of God, you should know that I am serving the Lord. So you could have entered my room. That would be all right, he said. And then again, we got to know Swami Bhuteshanandaji. Since my childhood actually. When I was a little boy, I used to go to a temple in our neighborhood where Swami Bhuteshananda would come and give talks. I would not understand what he had been saying, but I saw him. And then later on I saw him more when I was at the headquarters and he was made the General Secretary. And he was a disciple of Swami Saradananda. And he resembled Swami Saradananda in many ways. And he was calm despite his problems, just like Swami Saradananda used to be. And he had no craving for name, fame, power and position. He is humble, he had great humility, and he has a sense of humor. And then he had the ability to love everybody. And he had been invited to the Japan Vedanta Center at my request. I was asked to give spiritual initiation, but even though I had been asked to give spiritual initiation, I had some hesitation. I thought I should be perfect before I give initiation. So I requested Swami Bhaskarananda, who was the General Secretary, and when during my visit to India, I told him about that. Then he said, "Why not? You give initiation." I said, "No, Maharaj, I don't feel that way yet." Then he said, "All right, I shall see." Then he requested Swami Bhaskarananda, who was his assistant at the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Order. And he asked him to give initiation, go to Japan and give initiation. And he visited Jushi Center in Japan. And when one of our close devotees, Scottworth, visited the center, he was visiting Japan Center at that time. He did not allow everyone to visit him, but he had no objection to Scott visiting him. And he said to Scott, "I wanted to see you because you are dear to Jyoti and Jyoti is dear to me." Jyoti is my pre-monastic name, and he would call me by my pre-monastic name. And he was very calm. And when some Japanese devotees started going to India, then he said to them in my presence, that is, he said, "People call me president, but I am the same monk as I was in Shillong." And he also said why the Japan Center belonged to our order. He said, "It is because Jyoti that we have the Japan Center." Because I had been going to Japan from the very beginning of that center in Zushi. And then there was a Swami, his name was Yogisharananda. We know him as Upuda. His pre-monastic name was Upen. That from that Upuda, that name came to him. And one day, Swami Abhayananda, who is known as Bharat Maharaj, who was the manager of Belur Math, he put a container of rasagollas, which was full of frogs, because that is a season when the small frogs would be all around Belur Math. And he put some of them there. And so he said, "Give this to Upuda." And Upuda was Yogisharananda, and he was quite old. So, and he was fond of rasagollas, apparently. That's what was thought by some other monks. And Swami Bhaskarananda and he said about him, the frogs in the container of rasagollas he put on his bed, and that was done. And when he looked at the container of rasagollas, then the frogs jumped out. And so that was very funny. And he had a keen sense of humor, like many other monks had. And the idea of humor in the Ramakrishna Order has been there from the very beginning. And it was Swami Akhandananda who said to Swami Shiva Swarupananda, say victory to George V. George V was the king of England at that time. And then they wondered why he asked them to chant the name of George V at that time. It was just a joke. It was not anything serious. There was a Swami whose name was Swami Shantananda. And when I saw him, he was very old, and some monks used to go to his room and read some books out to him. One of the devotees who used to go to Swami Shantananda, he wanted to have Diksha, that means spiritual initiation, from Swami Shantananda. But Swami Shantananda said, go and get Diksha from our president. But the gentleman was hesitant because he had the wish to have Diksha from Swami Shantananda. Then one day he came and said, I have had Diksha from our president. And president was, I think, Bhaskarananda at that time. And I also remember Swami Muktananda of Benares. There are two centers in Benares. One is the center which is called the Ramakrishna Mott, and the other one is a hospital center. And it was, the Mott center had been started earlier, and then came that center, which is a hospital center, Sevashrama it is called. And there were some monks who thought that, yes, this hospital center was not the idea of Swami Vivekananda, while many others thought that, yes, it was his idea. And when the Sri Sarada Devi, the divine incarnation, and the spiritual consort of Sri Ramakrishna visited Benares, then she said that while she was visiting the hospital center, Sri Ramakrishna had passed away by the way, and he was there and showing her around very happily. She mentioned that to others. And I also learned table manners from Swami Chidrupananda. When I was sent to from Belur Math to this country, then I was first sent to San Francisco Center. There was a Swami there called Chidrupananda, very elderly Swami. he taught me how to maintain table manners in America. It was different from British system, where to put the fork and where to put the knife, where to put the spoons on the table. All this he taught me. And he said to me, when you go to Seattle Center, then you will see that the Swami there does not know how to maintain his table, because he was used to British system. He was not East American system. So Swami Chidrupananda taught me table manners. When I was first asked to come to America, then I came to San Francisco because I knew the Swami in charge of San Francisco, Swami Prabodhananda. And I thought I would ask him about how to work in this country. And then, so I was there. That's why Swami Chidrupananda taught me table manners. And also how to drive a car. While in India, I never drove a car. But after coming to this country, I had the necessity to learn how to drive. And there was Swami Krishnananda that was in our Hollywood Center. He taught me how to drive. And in the Seattle Center, there was a brahmachari whose name was Brahmachari James. It is he who guided me how to drive. And eventually I got the driver's license. And he also taught me how to work effectively in a foreign country. That means one should be able to love the people where he has been sent to work. That means to the West, when a monk would be sent from India, then he would have to learn to work effectively in a foreign country. Because there is a saying in our scriptures, Yasmin deshe yadacharaha, which means wherever you are, you have to act accordingly. The sense of humor is there in the behavior of the monks. And also, I came to know how to die. His name was Swami Atulananda, otherwise known as Guru Das Maharaj. He had gone to India and stayed there until he died. And he was a Western monk, and before his death, his last words were, "One is appearing as many." There was another Swami who also had similar experience. His name is Swami Jagadananda. His last words were, "Aham Brahmasmi," I am Brahman. And death is not to be feared. It is a release. That idea was present in our order. And there is one Swami named Prabuddha Maharaj, Purushatmananda, He was in charge of a center in Assam at that time. And then he had some problem, so he was sent to headquarters to have himself checked, and they found out that he had cancer of his stomach or something. And that could not be cured at that time. His Purushatmananda was in a ward where there were a few other patients. And then one day, Swami Purushatmananda said to the other patients, "Brothers, are you awake? My time is up. I'm leaving," he said, because the mother has come to take me. He was a disciple of the Holy Mother, apparently. And then he lay down peacefully and passed away. This is Swami Purushatmananda. Yes. These are only a few things that I would like to mention. There are many other things which may be mentioned in some future talks. Thank you all.